And with that, I immediately pass the floor to Commissioner Olivér Várhelyi, who will deliver his presentation in English.
I am happy, dear Commissioner, that you are with us today, and you are here in Budapest. The floor is yours.
Jó reggelt kívánok mindenkinek.
Good morning, everyone. My Hungarian is quite good, but as I was asked to speak in English, I will try and deliver my presentation in English, a comprehensive picture about the extension policy.
I'm truly honored, of course, to be here today in Budapest. I'm not only honored to be able to represent the European Commission here in the Hungarian National Academy of Sciences, but also I'm at home in Hungary, and this is always the most difficult to explain what you do outside the country for your home crowd. So, first of all, I would like to thank Minister Judit Varga for the kind invitation, and also for Minister Szijjártó for the support that I get in my work. From them. I think I couldn't do without the support of all member states this job. And this is, I think, the most important when you want to understand what enlargement policy is all about. Enlargement policy is a strategy, a strategical choice of Europe when it comes to its own development. And this is why it is a crucial issue also when we talk about the future of Europe. Because enlargement is not only about what Europe thinks about itself, but what Europe thinks about its neighborhood and what form of common future we can design with our neighborhood. And in that, I think the most important word to use is the respect for our neighborhood, because without respect, it is very difficult to design any common future. And this is why it is very important that we have at least one of them represented here today, because we need to design the future together, because the Western Balkans shares the continent with us. We belong together economically, socially, culturally. And don't forget history. This is a fact, and this is not only a fact, but an undeniable reality, that we are interdependent with one another when it comes to the Western Balkans and the European Union. This is why it was very important that in Brdo this year, in October, when our leaders discussed again the future of the Western Balkans, the European future of the Western Balkans, there was a very clear commitment for the European perspective of the Western Balkans. And as you have seen, the European perspective as such is maybe the main driving force for reforms, for consolidating states after conflicts, and also to build more resilient democracies and societies in the Western Balkans. And we shouldn't forget the fact that it is the European path that is capable of bringing economic and social prosperity long term. But this is only the beginning of the journey where we are with the Western Balkans. Therefore, it is very important to include fully the Western Balkans in our discussions when we discuss the future of Europe. Judging from what I have heard from the two ministers today, I think we can already safely agree on one thing when we talk about the future of Europe. We want a Europe that is stronger, which is based on stability, security, and prosperity. Second, Europe can only get stronger if it integrates fully the Western Balkans, where security, stability, and prosperity is a very scarce resource, but only Europe can help to deliver it on a long-term basis. For that, we have in place a framework that has stood the test of time, the so-called Copenhagen Criteria. And these were not only valid for the accession back in 2004, when Hungary became a member of the European Union, but it is still valid today. These principles are supporting also the policy choices of the candidates when they make their own political reforms and when they choose their path for mid-term, long-term. This is the approach that has been refined over time, and this is the approach, unfortunately, which had to be renewed by this Commission, because this Commission has made enlargement its priority. In that spirit, we have started our mandate by dragging out from the complete halt enlargement policy. In the first couple of months, it was our task to find a political solution to a deadlock that has been blocking us from making progress in enlargement, and that has led to a shrinking acceptance and space for Europe in the Western Balkans. This is why we have proposed a revised methodology for the accession negotiations based on the 4 principles. I think I have already explained here in Budapest already several times. And based on these 4 principles, we have been able to obtain again the support of all the member states. And this has allowed us to speed up the process through the negotiating clusters, and it also gives greater incentives through an accelerated integration, sector by sector, in specific areas, and this should also increase the political steer that we have all been missing from the whole enlargement process. And don't forget that this has put, again, in the focus, the very core areas of fundamentals in the focus of the negotiations, meaning the need to deliver on reforms related to the rule of law, democracy, human rights, and so on. And it was on the basis of this that we have been able to break the deadlock last year in March. However, this is not enough, and this has not been enough to make the enlargement a real perspective for the Western Balkans. In parallel to this, to close the social and economic development gap, because this is the big challenge underlining the whole enlargement policy, how fast we can close this gap, to prepare for membership every day. We have proposed a significant investment opportunity because we have launched an economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans. This is something never seen before from Europe. The plan aims to support the long-term recovery after the COVID crisis, but also to help to bring the Western Balkans much faster, much closer to the European Union. The plan brings roughly 30 billion euros of investments to the Western Balkans. To put this into perspective, this is 1/3 of the GDP of the entire region. On top of this, we hope that through work within the region, an additional 1/3 of investments can be created through the regional cooperation within the region. The plan is built around connectivity that reinforces the links within the Western Balkans and with Europe. It includes flagship projects selected in very close cooperation with our partners in areas that are the main bottlenecks in front of economic development: sustainable transport, energy connectivity and diversification of energy resources and greener energy resources, digital connectivity and basic broadband high-speed infrastructures. It supports the green transition, the creation of sustainable growth and jobs. We apply the same growth strategy, actually, that was put in place for the EU member states. And this is why, if I want to grasp it in one sentence, I would say the plan is a recovery plan for the Western Balkans with the Western Balkans. Alongside the economic and investment plan, the region also made its move, which is a very strong political commitment on their side, by creating the common regional market. This was agreed by the 6 leaders of the Western Balkans in Sofia, November last year. And this is the most important complement to the economic and investment plan. Because there's little point improving the physical connectivity within the Western Balkans and improving the human capital of the Western Balkans, like roads, improved railways, connecting all the capitals, training of workers with new skills, creating new job opportunities in the economy. If technical administrative barriers, long custom checks, or other trade barriers remain intact. According to the World Bank, 1/3 of the GDP is lost of the entire Western Balkans because of these measures. So the Western Balkans could create another 1/3 of its GDP only by doing away with these restrictions and barriers. And not only that, but this could build trust, security, stability long term among the Western Balkan partners, and this can bring prosperity. In addition, we have already put forward a significant COVID assistance package as well, worth of 3.3 billion euros. And we have delivered almost 3 billion doses of vaccines for the Western Balkans, so that they also have a similar vaccination rate as the EU. We have been fast to act. We've been there first to help the region, and not only to help the healthcare workers, but also to help the economy to stay afloat. We have been financing the SMEs in the region. We have been providing macro-financial assistance for those who needed it. So we were first to act, and we were first to help. Now, if you want me, I can go one by one of the countries, but maybe I leave it to the questions and answers. I understand that there are a section dedicated to that. And let me turn to the last part. What does the Western Balkans need to do to speed up the accession? Because so far I've been talking about what Europe should do and has been doing to speed up the enlargement. In order to succeed, we need continued commitment and progress in the reforms. And these are necessary reforms to be able to take on the commitment as EU member state, taking over the EU acquis, as it is called in the Brussels gibberish. So basically the rules that govern the EU. We need stable institutions. We need the rule of law. We need human rights, the protection of minorities, and we need a functioning market economy which is capable of withstanding the competition of the market forces in the EU. As we are talking about enlargement, of course, we see that the Western Balkan citizens are the one moving their governments forward, maybe the strongest. We see that there's a huge public acceptance and public outcry for a European perspective. And therefore, we should consider the citizens of the Western Balkans as future EU citizens. So when we discuss with them, we should think about 2004, when we became Hungarians members of the European Union, and we should try to think about the years have passed, and also the development it brought to our country. But we should also be able to see and explain to our partners what development this can bring to the Western Balkans. We think that, therefore, it was a very good proposal by the co-chairs of the Conference on the Future of Europe to agree to extend the invitation to the conference to the 6 Western Balkan partners, to the plenary, and this should not be a missed opportunity, because we would also need to know what the Western Balkans would like to be in the European Union. What is the added value the Western Balkans can bring? I'm convinced that enlargement is a win-win geopolitical, geostrategic investment on both sides. And as I said, this is the only tool to bring peace, stability, and prosperity. Thank you very much.